It was supposed to be just business until he pulled her close and whispered what he wanted. It was supposed to be just business. That was the first thing Iris Vale told herself as she stepped into the conference room. Glass walls, steel table, the city stretched below like a reminder of everything she could lose if this went wrong. She placed her folder neatly in front of her and waited. 2 minutes passed. Then the door opened. Marcus Reed didn't rush in. He didn't apologize for being late. He entered the room like he owned the air inside it, tall, impeccably dressed, composed to the point of severity. The kind of man whose presence recalibrated power without a word. "Ms. Vale," he said. "You're early. I don't like surprises," Iris replied. A flicker of interest crossed his face, gone just as quickly. "Neither do I," Marcus said, taking the seat across from her. "That's why we're here." He slid a document across the table. Consulting agreement. Duration 90 days, confidentiality absolute. She scanned it quickly. "You're asking me to step into a situation everyone else walked away from." "Yes, and you expect me to clean it up," she added. "I expect you to stop it from imploding," Marcus corrected. "Those are different skills." Iris closed the folder. "Then you should know I don't work under emotional ambiguity." His gaze sharpened. "Explain." "I don't blur lines," she said evenly. "No personal expectations, no leverage, no intimacy disguised as urgency." Silence settled between them, then Marcus nodded. "Agreed." The ease of it unsettled her. "This is temporary," he continued. "You advise, I decide. When the contract ends, so does our proximity." Iris leaned back slightly. "And if I disagree with your decisions, you convince me," he said, "or you walk." She smiled faintly. "Direct, I like that." He didn't return the smile. They stood at the same time. A coincidence, nothing more, but the space between them felt charged. "This stays professional," Marcus said quietly. "Of course," Iris replied. Neither of them looked away. By the end of the first week, Iris understood the real cost of the agreement. It wasn't the hours. She worked longer. It wasn't the pressure. She thrived under it. It was proximity. Marcus Reed operated in controlled silence, meetings that ran like choreography, decisions made with surgical precision. He didn't raise his voice, he didn't repeat himself, he noticed everything. "You adjusted the projections," he said one night, glancing at her screen. "They were optimistic," Iris replied. "Reality doesn't care about confidence." He studied her for a beat. Good, that was his version of praise. Late nights became normal. The building emptied. The city lights flickered on beyond the glass. Iris stopped noticing the time. She did notice when Marcus stood too close to review a document, when his presence lingered half a second longer than necessary. When he stopped himself from touching her arm to get her attention. Once their hands brushed as they reached for the same file. Just once, both of them froze. "Sorry," he said immediately. "It's fine," she replied. It was. The first crisis hit on a Thursday night, a leak. Strategic. Damaging. Time to pressure the board. Marcus paced the conference room, jaw tight. Iris stood at the table, calm despite the storm. "They want a reaction," she said. "If you give them one, you lose control." "And if I stay silent?" he asked. "They overplay," she replied. "And we document everything." He stopped pacing and looked at her. "You're certain?" "Yes." Silence, then Marcus nodded. "Do it." She blinked. "You're trusting me with this?" "I wouldn't have hired you otherwise." Something in his tone made her chest tighten. They left the office after midnight. The elevator ride down was quiet, too quiet. "You handled tonight well," Marcus said. "So did you." He glanced at her. "Most people panic." "I don't," Iris replied. "I compartmentalize." He nodded slowly. "So do I." The elevator stopped. Doors opened. Neither moved right away. "Iris," Marcus said quietly. She looked up. "This is business," he reminded her. She met his gaze. "I know." But as they stepped out into the empty lobby, Iris felt it, an awareness she couldn't compartmentalize away. This arrangement had rules, clear ones. And something about the way Marcus Reed watched her, careful, restrained, intentional, told her those rules were already being tested. Not by desire, by control. And control, she knew better than most, never broke quietly. By the second week, Iris stopped pretending the workday ended at 6. Marcus Reed's world didn't operate on hours, it operated on pressure, and pressure didn't respect boundaries unless someone enforced them. Iris enforced them for a living. What she hadn't expected was how quickly proximity blurred intention. They shared a floor now, not by design, by necessity. The leak had triggered tighter security, fewer intermediaries, shorter decision loops. Marcus wanted her close not personally, professionally, at least that's what they both said. Her temporary office sat just outside his. Glass walls again, no privacy, no distance. Visibility without intimacy, it was deliberate. "You'll have full access," Marcus said, handing her a new badge, "but no authority to speak on my behalf." "I wouldn't," Iris replied. "Power borrowed is power revoked." That earned her a look sharp, approving. "You understand how this works," he said. "I understand how it fails," she corrected. Long hours turned into long nights, the building emptied, assistants logged off, the hum of the city replaced conversation. Marcus grew quieter when he was tired, not sloppy, not careless, just still. Iris noticed. She noticed how he never sat with his back to the door. How he read people faster than data, how control for him wasn't arrogance, it was defense. One night as rain streaked down the windows, she finally said it. "You don't trust easily." He didn't look up from the screen. "Neither do you, that's not an answer." "It's the only one you're getting." She smiled faintly. "Fair." The first almost moment arrived uninvited. They were reviewing documents side by side, shoulders nearly touching. Iris leaned closer to read a footnote, her sleeve brushing his arm. Marcus stilled. She felt it, the pause, the recalibration. He stepped back immediately. "Let's take a break," he said. It wasn't a suggestion. Iris nodded. "Good idea." They stood too close again by accident near the coffee machine. She reached for the handle at the same time he did. Their fingers brushed just once. Electric. Marcus withdrew instantly. "Apologies," he said evenly. Iris met his gaze. "You didn't do anything wrong." His jaw tightened. "I prefer to avoid misunderstandings." "So do I," she replied, but neither of them moved away as quickly the next time. The pressure escalated, board members questioned strategy, media speculation sharpened. Every decision carried weight. During one call, a senior executive cut Iris off mid-sentence. Marcus didn't raise his voice. "Let her finish," he said. The silence that followed was immediate. Iris glanced at him, surprised. He didn't look back. After the call ended, she spoke carefully. "You didn't have to do that." "Yes," Marcus said, "I did." "Why?" "Because you were right," he replied, "and because no one interrupts someone I've asked to speak." Something in his tone made her chest tighten. Not ownership, respect. The contradiction deepened. In meetings, Marcus was precise, distant, unyielding. Outside them, he noticed things he shouldn't have. "You didn't eat today," he said once, not looking at her. "I'm fine." "You're not," he replied. "There's soup in the fridge." She stared at him. "You stocked the fridge?" "I live here," he said. "You're here late." That wasn't an answer. Another night she caught him watching her from across the room, not evaluating, not calculating, just aware. She broke eye contact first. The external pressure finally cracked the silence. A reporter published a speculative piece naming Iris directly the fixer behind Reed's silence. Marcus called her into his office immediately. "This shouldn't have happened," he said. "It happens when you're effective," Iris replied. "People look for leverage." "You shouldn't be exposed," he said flatly. "I accepted that risk." "You didn't accept this," he countered. His frustration wasn't professional, that was the problem. She crossed her arms. "You don't get to decide what I can handle." Marcus stepped closer, too close. "I get to decide what threatens the work," he said, "and I'm not the threat," she replied quietly. The air tightened. He stopped himself, stepped back. "You're right," he said. "This is crossing lines." "Yes," Iris agreed, "it is." Silence stretched, then his phone rang. The moment shattered. Later that night, Iris sat alone at her desk, staring at the city. She told herself this was normal. That proximity always created friction. That tension was just pressure misinterpreted. But deep down, she knew better. This wasn't attraction, it was recognition, and recognition was dangerous, because it asked questions neither of them were ready to answer. Behind the glass wall, Marcus stood in his office, staring at a projection he hadn't absorbed in 10 minutes. He'd hired Iris Vale because she was brilliant, controlled, and immune to chaos. He hadn't anticipated the quiet gravity of her presence, or the fact that restraint was starting to fail him. The line wasn't crossed in one dramatic moment, it shifted, quietly, increment by increment, until neither of them could remember where it had originally been. The deal was still intact. The contract still clean, the work still the priority. That was the lie they both lived inside. The crisis broke on a Thursday night. A hostile acquisition attempt, fast, aggressive, designed to destabilize Reed Industries before the market opened in Asia. Marcus called Iris at 11:47 p.m. She answered on the second ring. "I'm on my way," she said before he could speak. When she arrived, the building was locked down, security lights dimmed. The city outside looked unreal, distant. Marcus stood at the center of the operations floor, jacket off, sleeves rolled up, focused, controlled, but not untouched. "They're trying to corner the board," he said. "If they succeed, I lose majority control by morning." Iris didn't hesitate. "Then we make sure they don't." They worked shoulder to shoulder for hours, calls, counteroffers, strategic leaks, pressure applied in places no one would trace back to Marcus. At 3:12 a.m., Iris ended a call and leaned back in her chair. "They're backing off," she said. "They didn't expect resistance this clean." Marcus exhaled slowly, because it wasn't supposed to be. He turned to her. "You just saved my company." Iris met his gaze, exhausted but steady. "I did my job." "No," he said quietly, "you did more." That was the moment something cracked. They didn't notice how close they were standing, not until the silence pressed in, not until the adrenaline faded and left something else behind. "You should go home," Marcus said. "So should you," Iris replied. Neither moved. The city hummed below them. Marcus spoke first. "This arrangement ends when the crisis does." "I know," Iris said, "and it should," he continued, "because what's happening now, this tension, it compromises judgment." She nodded, "Yes." Neither of them believed it. The next morning the press erupted. The failed takeover leaked. Analysts praised Marcus's decisive leadership. His name trended, so did Iris's, not publicly but in boardrooms. People noticed her. Offers came in, quiet ones, dangerous ones. She declined all of them. That was the problem. Marcus noticed. "You're turning down opportunities," he said one evening. "They're not aligned," Iris replied. "They're better than this contract." "Money isn't everything," she said lightly. His eyes sharpened. "Then what is?" The question hung between them. She didn't answer. The breaking point arrived, disguised as routine. A late meeting, a locked floor, a storm cutting power to half the building, emergency lights flickered on, the elevator stalled, they were alone. The hum of backup generators filled the space. Marcus checked his phone, no signal. "We'll be here a while," he said. Iris nodded, strangely calm. Silence settled, not awkward, not forced, heavy. "This isn't just business anymore," Iris said finally. Marcus didn't deny it. "No," he agreed, "it is." She turned to face him fully. "Then we need to stop." He stepped closer instead. "Tell me to," he said, her breath caught. She didn't move, didn't speak. That was all the permission restraint had been waiting for. Marcus reached out, not touching her yet, just close enough that she felt the heat of him. "This is where it ends," he said softly, "or where it changes." Her voice was barely audible. "You don't whisper things like that unless you already know the answer." His hand closed around her wrist, not possessive, grounding. "Iris," he said, low and steady, "what do you want?" The question stripped everything else away. No contracts, no leverage, no power, just truth. She swallowed. "I want this to stop pretending." Marcus's control finally snapped, not violently, not recklessly. He pulled her close, firm, certain. His mouth hovered near her ear as the lights flickered again. "And I want you to understand something," he murmured. "This was never just business to me." Her name followed, not loud, not dramatic, whispered, like a promise he'd been holding back for too long. The world outside the stalled elevator ceased to matter, because once the line moved, there was no pretending it hadn't. What happened in the stalled elevator didn't explode, it settled. That was the most dangerous part. They didn't kiss. They didn't need to. The silence after his whisper did more damage than any reckless touch could have. When the power returned and the doors slid open, they stepped out like nothing had changed. That was the lie, everything had. The next morning, Iris rewrote the contract, not because Marcus asked, because she needed distance. She removed clauses that required late nights, added buffers, professionalized everything. Marcus noticed immediately. "You're pulling away," he said. "I'm restoring balance," she replied. "That's not the same thing." She met his gaze. "It has to be." He didn't argue. That scared her more than if he had. The board noticed the shift too. Performance dipped, not financially but energetically. Marcus became sharper, colder, less patient. At a closed-door meeting, one director leaned forward. "She's become indispensable," he said, "which is a liability." Marcus's jaw tightened. "Explain." "You rely on her judgment. That creates vulnerability." Another voice added, "And rumors are starting." That was the word that mattered, rumors. Marcus ended the meeting early. By the time he reached his office, Iris was already there. You need to let me go, she said before he could speak. The words landed like a blade. No, he said flatly, this is bigger than us, she continued. If they think I influence you, I don't think, he cut in. I know, her chest tightened, that's the problem. That night she accepted an offer, a competitor, higher pay, more authority, total independence. She didn't tell Marcus, he found out through legal. The silence that followed was brutal. Their final meeting was scheduled, formal, professional. Iris entered his office like a stranger. I didn't want it to end like this, she said. Marcus stood slowly. You didn't even give me a choice. You had one, she replied. You just didn't like it. He stepped closer, anger barely contained. You think walking away fixes this? It stops it from destroying us. His voice dropped. You don't get to decide that alone. She looked up at him, eyes steady, heart breaking. I do, she said, because you won't. The signing was quick, no lingering, no apologies. As she turned to leave, Marcus spoke. Was any of it real? She paused, every answer hurt. Yes, she said softly, that's why I'm leaving. The door closed behind her, and for the first time in years Marcus Reed was alone. The fallout was immediate, the press spun it, the board stabilized, the company surged. Marcus didn't. He worked longer hours, took fewer meetings, slept less. Success felt hollow. He replayed everything. Every moment he hadn't crossed the line, every time he should have. 3 weeks later, the competitor's deal collapsed. Internal sabotage. Iris walked out with her integrity intact but her future uncertain. Her phone buzzed. Marcus. She stared at the name for a long time, then answered. I'm not calling to convince you, he said. I'm calling to tell you the truth. She held her breath. I built everything to avoid needing anyone, he continued. And then you walked in and made that impossible. Silence. I don't want leverage, he said. I don't want control. What do you want? She asked. The answer came without hesitation. You, not the strategist, not the asset, not the solution, her. I'm not coming back, she said. I know, he replied. I'm not asking you to. Another pause. Meet me, he said, not as my employee. Her heart pounded. Where? Somewhere neutral. She smiled despite herself. Always negotiating. Always honest, he corrected. That meeting would change everything. It was about choosing what came next, without contracts, without power plays, without pretending. They met at a place neither of them owned. A quiet rooftop cafe overlooking the city, neutral ground, no glass walls, no assistants, no leverage hiding in paperwork. Just two people who had already lost control once. Iris arrived first. She wore no power suit, no armor, just herself. When Marcus stepped out of the elevator, she felt it anyway, the same pull, the same gravity that had made pretending impossible. He stopped a few feet away. For the first time since she'd known him, he didn't look like a billionaire CEO, he looked like a man who'd already decided to risk something. I won't talk about the company, he said immediately. Good, she replied, neither will I. Silence stretched, not uncomfortable, honest. I spent my life believing control was safety, Marcus said, that if I built enough walls, nothing could touch me. She watched him carefully. And then? She asked. And then you did, he said simply. No drama, no grand speech, just truth. I left because I didn't want to become a weakness you'd have to deny, Iris said quietly. You were never a weakness, he replied. You were the first thing that made me stronger by choice. Her breath caught. You don't get to say that now, she said, after everything. I know, he said, that's why I'm not asking you to trust me. He stepped closer but not too close. I'm asking you to choose me, he said, without pressure, without advantage, without a door locking behind you. She studied him, the control was gone. So was the distance. What happens when this gets hard, she asked. When power shifts, when one of us has more than the other. I step back, he said instantly. Or you do, we talk, we don't trap each other. And if it fails? Marcus didn't flinch. Then I lose you honestly, he said, not because I held on too tightly. That was it, the answer she hadn't known she was waiting for. Iris exhaled. I don't want to be owned, she said. I don't want to own you, he replied. I want to stand next to you. She closed the final distance herself. This time when he pulled her close, it wasn't desperate, it was steady, certain, no walls, no whispers meant to control, just his forehead resting against hers. I wanted you, he murmured. But more than that, I wanted you to stay. Her voice was soft. Then don't give me a reason to leave. I won't, he promised, and this time it wasn't whispered. They didn't rush, they never had again. What followed wasn't explosive passion, it was alignment. Late nights that didn't belong to anyone else. Arguments that ended in understanding, not dominance. Choices made together, not strategically. Marcus didn't shrink, he adapted. Iris didn't disappear, she expanded. Months later, a reporter asked him during an interview, "What changed your leadership style?" Marcus smiled. "I stopped believing strength meant standing alone." The camera cut away. Iris watched from the edge of the room. When their eyes met, he held her gaze, and for the first time there was nothing left to hide. Because what began as business, what blurred into danger. What nearly broke them became the one thing neither of them ever tried to control again: each other.